Hey Becca family, my name is Teresa Gonzalez and I am a homeschooling mom. I was not homeschooled growing up. In fact, both of my parents worked multiple jobs outside of the house to make ends meet for my brothers and I. So homeschooling was not an option for us. My husband also did not have any homeschool experience, but we both knew that we wanted to homeschool because we wanted our children to have a Christ-centered education and a biblical worldview. So we had no idea how to do this. Homeschooling was not mainstream, or at least as mainstream as it is now when we first started, but we just went for it and we jumped right in. And if I could go back in time, there are a few things I would do differently. So today I wanted to share with you 10 things I wish I knew before I started homeschooling. Number one is to figure out your family's rhythm and to find a curriculum that fits your family's need. Becca provides multiple options when it comes to homeschooling. There's a parent-led option, there's a video lesson option where you can choose to do an accredited program or an independent study. You can also just purchase individual books from their curriculum or supplemental materials. So number two is to create a schedule. Our family, we time block, and that works really well for us. And I have another video on the Becca YouTube page that talks about how we do that. Creating a schedule really creates structure for your homeschooling, and that's super important. So number three is be flexible, and I wanted to have this one after creating a schedule because I think that although schedules are really important and they create structure for your homeschooling, it's also very important to know how to bend before you break. And this is something I wish I knew when I first started. I wanted things to be very rigid, and now flexibility looks like taking school outside, or maybe switching from a video lesson option to me directing and leading that particular lesson. Or sometimes it means just cutting everything off and spending a little bit more time on a specific subject. And so that throws off our schedule, but some days I have to learn how to add flexibility into our day. Number four is to get connected. Finding connection with like-minded families is super important. We do this through our church. Our kids are involved in choir, in Awana, they all have Sunday school classes, and my husband and I also have Bible studies that we go to where we get a chance to meet and to connect with other homeschooling families. This is great for accountability, for socialization. Sometimes you just need to bounce ideas off of one another, and sometimes you just need that support from that other homeschooling parent who understands what you're going through. So number five, take advantage of the perks. There are some activities, museums, galleries that allow homeschoolers to come in, and a lot of times they're at a discounted price, which is wonderful for a family like mine where I have 4 kids at home. And it gives us an opportunity to meet up with some of our homeschooling friends and to add an activity or an exploration day or some sort of field trip to our homeschooling schedule. There's no comparison in homeschooling. The beauty of homeschooling is that there is no one way or no right way of homeschooling. Our homeschooling is tailored to our family's rhythm and to our needs, and that may look completely different than yours. Not better, not worse, just different, because it's specific to our family. It's specific to our needs, our time, our strengths, our weaknesses. And so when I find myself comparing our homeschooling to a different families, I tend to have a lack of gratitude for what we have. I tend to have a lack of contentment, and that just robs my joy altogether. And so there is no room for that in homeschooling. Number 7 is to figure out your strengths and outsource when you can. Becca has a great art book that we purchase, and I also stock up at our hobby store with all the supplies that they might need for the year. And then I also purchased the prepackaged art supply boxes, and I let my kids do that throughout the year. And so I don't try to reinvent the wheel because arts and crafts, that's not really my strength. At one point I thought I could do it, but if I could go back, I would tell myself, just outsource it and life would just be a lot more simple. Number 8 is to remember the bigger picture. At the start of every school year, we write down our homeschool mission statement, and I keep that handy where I can see it. Sometimes homeschooling is hard, and on those really hard days, I just make sure that I go back and I read it, and I remind myself of the reason why we started homeschooling in the first place. Number 9 is to plan ahead. And this doesn't have to take long. In fact, Abeka provides an academic calendar where you can plug in your family's information or their activities or their scheduled events. We also start off the school year by looking at our entire school calendar. Abeka has options for a 12-month program, a 9-month program, or an accelerated 6-month program. So once you figure out what route you're taking, it helps to take a step back and look at your entire year. And then plug in holidays and plug in family vacations, or plug in mom days off, whatever you need to plug into your whole calendar so that you can see where you're going to fit in your kids' or your students' lessons. You can also zoom in a little bit more and plan for the next day. There are some parents that like to pull out every worksheet for every lesson, and they put that together in a folder or an envelope so that their kid just pulls out the envelope and they know exactly what to do for that day. Or you may want to just pull out tests and have them readily available. I like to look through my video manual, and I like to see what my kids have coming up the next day. So that 1, I remind them if there's a test coming up so that they're sharp. 2, so that I know if there's any supplies that I need to grab or to have prepared for them. So planning ahead is super helpful, and that's something I wish I knew when I first started. And then number 10, don't neglect your own prayer life. Friends, we're spending so much time and so much energy pouring into the lives of our families, and we can only do that in our own strength for so long. We need to spend time reading the Bible and praying and filling our mind with the Word of God so that we can be strengthened and we can have the love and the joy and the peace and the patience that we need to homeschool as the Spirit works in us and continues to sanctify us to be more like Christ. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me here. My name is Teresa Gonzalez. If you have any questions, you can chat with me over on Instagram at @withlove_Terry.